my name is Mike Connors, Public Works Administrator for the City of St. Petersburg, and today we're going to discuss the implementation of the new Pier process. Mayor Kreisman has asked me to lead a number of citizens and staff members on the implementation of a process that he developed shortly after taking office. That process involved a lot of public input, a working group established to create programmatic elements that are supposed to be included in the pier design and ultimate operation of the pier, a selection committee that will ultimately shortlist concepts and then recommend a ranking of those concepts for the mayor's consideration that will then go forward to City Council. But first and foremost, when Mayor Kreisman took office, he recognized that the shuttered pier represented a sore spot in the middle of our downtown waterfront, and he opened up the pier for citizens and pedestrians alike to take advantage of in terms of fishing, jogging, and biking. And to this day, that advantage is taken up by many of our citizens. Right thereafter, Mayor Kreisman convened with staff and developed a detailed process in conformance with law, procurement policies, but most importantly, public engagement. And that process was then vetted with a number of stakeholders. And those stakeholders were then engaged on an individual basis by our mayor in order to get them to buy into the process on how to replace the pier. That then set the stage for a fundamental understanding of the stakeholders and players in their belief in how this pier should go forward in terms of its replacement. The second major engagement of the public was the mayor's establishment of a working group. And therein, he identified 21 different members of the public from a variety and diverse backgrounds and public interests that were convened for the purpose of confirming prior programmatic elements and any net new elements that the public would wish to include in terms of the pier's operational characteristics. So when we talk about programmatic elements, we're talking about something as basic as fishing to something as complex as an environmental center. But nonetheless, the working group was diligently pursued public input on what those programmatic elements should be that were then going to be incorporated into a request for qualifications. This particular RFQ is structured to request the AE community, the architectural engineering community, to indicate whether they intended to renovate the pier or develop a concept for a net new pier. Last week, we received 16 different responses to our request for qualifications. 8 of them proposed to renovate the existing pier, 7 of them proposed to build a net new pier, and 1 of them indicated yet to be determined. The next thing Mayor Kreisman did was establish a selection committee, and that once again involved a diverse number of community activists that had planning, architectural, neighborhood, financial, and other type expertise. That group is now going to sit down and go through the statement of qualifications for the purpose of shortlisting these AE teams. Our desire is to shortlist approximately 8 AE teams and then contract with them for approximately $30,000 per team. That stipend will allow the AE teams then to submit their concepts, which takes place in this juncture and in this juncture of the pier process. Those concepts will then be delivered to the city in the form of architectural renderings, some general plans and elevational views, a complete description of how the programmatic elements that the working group described as necessary are going to be addressed with the design, the environmental characteristics and how they're going to be met from a permitting standpoint, and then construction cost estimates. So those primary features of a given AE team's concepts will then be evaluated by the shortlist committee in conjunction with a construction manager at risk that will be the oversight entity in terms of the cost estimating review. Those will then be used for further shortlisting purposes to make sure that the feasibility is indeed intact for any of these given concepts in order to move forward for public involvement. Public will then be involved by educating and informing them on these various concepts, and ultimately the public will be asked to be engaged in a non-binding public vote Mayor Kreisman wants that vote to be made available to anyone 18 years or older that's domiciled in the city of St. Petersburg, registered and non-registered voter. So we're developing a very inclusive process to reach out to the community to see what their preferred concepts are. That information will then go back to the selection committee, which ultimately will result in a ranking of concepts to the mayor for his submittal then to City Council. That then wraps up in the City Council vote to approve the given concept that's currently scheduled in March of 2015, followed by final design in the summer following March of 2015, with details and construction details and permits ensuing through 2016, and construction to follow in 2017. In summary, there are 4 distinct and significant differences on what Mayor Kreisman has called for going forward versus what didn't take place in the prior attempt to implement a pier replacement project. Number 1, Mayor Kreisman has engaged the stakeholders on their views toward the pier to agree upon the process. Number 2, he engaged a working group to define programmatic elements or activities that should be included in the design that are going to be adhered to by the AE concepts, or if, in the absence thereof, will not be furthered for consideration. Number 3, and most significantly so, he's asked the staff to go out and solicit public input in the form of a non-binding public vote, registered and non-registered voters. A very robust effort, but probably one of the most inclusive efforts on a public project ever undertaken in the history of this government. And then finally, Mayor Kreisman has made available for the public to be engaged with a renovation of the pier, which is essentially the inverted pyramid that we're talking about, versus a replacement, a net new replacement of the pier. For more information, please contact thenewpier.org, wherein the Pier Process and a multitude of other information is available.